Okay, hello everybody. This is Chris from the Stewart Buzz. We are here with Kaylee. Hi, Kaylee. How you doing?
Hey.
Today's topic is going to be a conversation regarding boundaries. Just not in work relationships, just not in private relations, just in every work relationship, private relationships, friendships, people who you just meet. There's boundaries all over the place that need to be set. And sometimes there are natural boundaries that people should know just by living. Okay? And then there are boundaries that you don't know that you cross. And then you have to tell the individual. And it could be work related, or it could be home, or it could be your spouse. It's just really kind of weird. So people that come in to shop at the store, there have been boundaries that have been broken where I personally had to set people straight. You personally have had to set people straight. Not necessarily in a mean way, but maybe they don't realize they're doing something. So, have you had boundaries crossed to where it would affect your day?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what do you do about that? Do you just let it ruin your day? Or do you handle the situation? Do you just
I think it depends on how much energy that I give it. So, one time I was talking with my therapist, right, when I had a therapist, and she told me that, it's the power of, there's physical boundaries and there's energetic boundaries, right? And so physical boundaries can be set in a thing called the power of three. And what is the power of three, right? So when somebody crosses a boundary, and I'll give you, for instance, it's like you have a friend that's like, hey, you want to come out tonight? Like, let's go out. You're like, no, thank you. I would rather stay at home. Oh, but come on. Come out.
that's
Right?
two?
Right? That's true. Come out. And if you just say this, instead of saying, so you could react to it one of two ways, like, no, I told you I don't want to go out tonight. Or you could just say the same thing that you did the first time. No, thank you. I would rather stay in tonight. If you say the same thing, by the third time, I guarantee you they're not going to ask again. But if you continue to give it like that anger and that energy, like where it's like, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like you didn't have to act that way. And the next thing you know, it's building a form of resentment. So I think also with boundary crossing could come resentment. But I think that the thing is so you could say the same thing 3 times. I guarantee you by the third time they won't ask again. And it's not giving it much energy because you just did the same thing two times, 3 times in a row. But we're so used to giving it even more energy because by the first time you say no, and they're still going. But why? Like people are wanting to know why you don't want to do something. And it's like, well,
Sometimes you just don't.
yeah, and sometimes you just don't. And so that's why it's, and they don't realize what they're doing either. You know what I mean? Because we're so used to that. Like, we're so used to that. So there's a physical boundary. An energetic boundary is you continue to give it energy when that person's not even around. So you continue to give it anger, sadness, all that kind of stuff when they're not even there. And let's continue to give it energy.
I never thought about the 3, but that's 3 strikes you're out kind of thing. I have an issue with my own self when people come into the store and don't know their boundaries after me telling them not 3 times, but 10 times, 12 times, 15 times. And they still don't listen. Mm-hmm. But as a store owner, do I just tell them, okay, listen, I don't need you coming into the store anymore, because they don't understand the boundaries that we've set numerous times. I don't know necessarily how to deal with that other than to say, do not come back. How do you, like, How do you do that? Keep their friendship? You probably don't.
And I think that's why most of us are so nervous to set boundaries. I think that's why we continue to hold off setting boundaries for a period of time, because we're so afraid of either hurting somebody's feelings, losing somebody, them taking it the wrong way. When in fact, like, if you don't set a boundary, you can start to build resentment within yourself. But like, if you discuss that boundary with somebody and why you feel the way that you feel, most of the time people are going to really respect that, and most of the time it's going to actually help build relationships rather than tear relationships apart. And if it's going to tear the relationship apart, then that's what it's meant to be at. If people can't respect your boundary, it comes down to respect.
I would agree with that. So then help me out here, because you know exactly what I'm talking about setting a boundary with some people that shop in the store. Mm-hmm. How do I give that one last boundary try? Or do I just say, okay, so it's sort of over now?
Well, how many times have you allowed it to cross a boundary?
Many. I think we all have, in that sense of the person or people that might have come into the store and shop.
I think that it comes down to, you have to accept what the repercussion of.
There would be no repercussion.
Then why not set the boundary as to, listen, I have set my boundary and this is the ultimatum.
Have you ever set a boundary and the person didn't take it well, and you no longer communicate with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I feel like eventually I did, because eventually people understand why you did. And that happens every single time. Every time they'll walk away upset or angry because they feel some form of shame or guilt within themselves, which is why they tend to do that. But ultimately they will come back after they've thought about it and understand on a personal level why you had to do what you had to do.
Hopefully they're mature enough to be able to do that. But not everybody is. I have a relative that I had tried to set boundaries to, and I have not talked to that person in over 4 years.
And that's how.
And it's a relative.
Then there's no respect level. And if people don't want to respect the boundary, then that's not somebody that needs to be around you or in your energy or in your life.
That's true. So in your personal life, you don't have to like somebody just because they're your relative. Some people have draining energy if they are your relative. I'm just letting everybody know that. So you can set the boundaries with a relative of yours, or just a friend. And if they don't accept that boundary, that is their choice.
Yeah.
Because you are you. You know your boundary. You know what you want. You know what you're asking for. You're saying it in a very nice way. If they don't like it, then that's not your problem.
Yeah.
You don't want to carry that around with you to where it's draining just to see the individual.
Or even think about even coming in interaction. Because again, I feel like with boundaries and people continuously crossing boundaries, it builds resentment towards family, it builds resentment towards friends, it builds resentment because you're suppressing how you feel. You're constantly suppressing how you feel, and if you're suppressing how you feel, eventually it's going to build up, and there's anger, and there's frustration, and there's sadness, and there's whatever it might be, and that needs to come out. But again, I think the biggest thing that blocks us from that is thinking about the repercussion of it, because nobody wants to, when people set boundaries, it's not necessarily like, you obviously care about somebody if you're looking to set a boundary with somebody. Like, let's be real. Like, I feel like you can walk away from somebody easy and be like, I'm never talking to you again.
But now you're talking about a personal boundary. Now, Now, I would agree with you on that.
But you're
But a
talking
work
about
boundary-
family.
But a work boundary is not because necessarily you like the individual. You just don't want to have to kick them out of your store. You know, that's a client you're leaving, and they're gonna bash your store numerous times and all that. So there's other things that you have to think about.
That's just one person compared to so many people that come in.
Agreed. I agree. So you have to take that. So as
That's what I mean with the acceptance part. So you have to accept the repercussions. And you said, what if there wasn't any repercussions? And so the repercussions would be all of that. Like, it's accepting the repercussions of it, right? Are we live, by the way?
We are live. No, we're not live.
Oh, okay.
We're recorded live.
Okay, I'm making sure it's on recorded.
It's on recorded right there.
Okay.
So I get that, and I respect that, and it to me, this is going to sound really weird. I think it's easier to set boundaries with family than it is to set boundaries with clients or customers. I don't know why. I think it's harder because, like my work, the people that work with me, that nobody works for me. The people that work with me, the boundaries there are like my family. The customers, some of my customers are like family. I got Chris that comes in all the time. You got a lot of people. You got Huntsley that comes in all the time. That they have become family over the years. And they don't cross boundaries. And I think they're mature enough not to know not to cross boundaries. I don't even think they even thought. Now, Huntsley did one time, and I don't think it was meant on purpose, but he was taking the testers of the essential oils and putting them all over himself, and then putting them all over the other people in the Reiki circle. So I said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I set the boundary. He's never done it again.
Yeah.
So
It's
to
like,
me,
because a lot of the time people don't understand, what they're doing, but at the same time there are people who understand, but they're thinking of themselves more than they're thinking about the
I
consideration.
almost feel like they're doing it on purpose, just to get you.
To get the energy from you.
Yeah.
It's energy vampire.
Yeah.
Exactly what I mean. It really is that. Like, there's some people who just want to just get the energy out from you. They
Just
need
want to
something.
F with you.
So
That's-
whether it be they want a sense of love or ease, or whether it be they want the sense of like they want to get some form of energy towards you. So that's where it's important, especially within the store. How I've learned to set boundaries is like one-worders.
Explain. What's the-
One-worders. Okay, so like somebody is like, oh, this happened in my life, and like all that kind of stuff, right? Speaking in tongues, right? So, what I do is, oh, okay. Or
Did you hear what they said? No, probably not.
No,
It
don't.
just goes like
I don't.
It's like Charlie
No.
Brown's teacher. It's like
because I already know. I already know where it's going. I know where it's going because it's happened multiple times. So, or whether it be the sense of I redirect the conversation, and now that person does not even when I walk in, it's just hello, and that's it, because I have now to the point. And was there things said about me, or was there things? Yeah, of course. Was there things trying to be misconstrued about me? Yeah, of course. But the problem is because I quit feeding it energy. I say one-worders. Like, that's my way. That's what I do. Or I'm like, okay.
So if you were, that was you, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you were to give the audience a tip of how to deal with somebody with a boundary, with a one-worder, what would you say?
What do you mean? Just
Just like, what would you do like, is that what you would do? Is just diffuse it by saying, "Oh, okay," or something like that?
Yeah.
Or is there another way to do it? I don't know.
No, I just say okay. I just say okay, or yes, or no, or yeah, or no.
Now, here's we're keeping it on sort of the personal level, not necessarily the metaphysical level.
Yeah, if they have a question with that, like, sure, I'll be happy to help. But like, again, there's even boundaries that, because again, it's what would you choose, or what would you, and then it turns into like, even like there's been times where I'm trying to help a customer and another customer comes in and is trying to steer me away from, and you just have to be like, hey, I'm helping this person out right now. I can help you afterwards if you really have a question that you need me.
Oh my God! So I have had that numerous times.
Yeah.
I was just looking at something Jeannie said. So there was numerous times where I would be having a conversation and a certain individual would just talk right over me
Yeah.
to the other person. I look at them and I said, I was just speaking. And I tell them, and I said the boundary right there. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, sorry. They know they're doing it. How can you not know you're doing it? Mm-hmm. I mean, do you really think there are people that don't know that they're doing it?
Yes.
Seriously?
I do. I do think that there are people who aren't mentally right, and struggle with, mental health issues, which again is valid. Like, we all, some people have mental health issues to where the point where it is like that. Yeah, where it's like they need to constantly validate their mind, or they need to constantly validate, and it's always searching external from themselves because they can't, they have such a hard time within themselves that they need that constant external validation. If they don't, they drive themselves crazy.
And driving other people crazy at the same time.
That's correct, but that's where they don't even understand, because they're driving themselves crazy 24/7 but refusing to believe it. So there's people that struggle with severe mental health issues that are refused to even admit that they're struggling with mental health issues because they don't want to believe anything is wrong.
And there are people who know that they're struggling with mental health issues and don't do anything about it.
Yes. So there's people, okay, so here's the thing with mental health as well, is you have to understand that it could be a very fine, it's a very fine line, because what we do too is we're here for people. We hold space for people. People come to us like therapists, right? Okay?
Very much so.
But here's the thing. Okay, and this is where I think we do have trouble setting boundaries, is the fact that we are not clinically, we don't, there are people out there, therapists out there, who know how to clinically deal with these people without allowing it to affect them. They go to school for this. And I think that that's where because we want to help people, but it's also not allowing them to continuously come to us as their therapists. It's because nothing is changing. So if anything, we're just enabling behavior.
And what's odd is that the majority of the psychologists and psychiatrists and mental health counselors come here, and we help them. Mm-hmm. But it's in a different way. So we'll help you to a point, but then we would have to refer you to someone else.
Yeah.
If you're just not grasping the concept.
Right.
Excuse me. Hold on, I'm losing my voice.
Because I feel like, if anything, we want you to get the help that you need. And when I feel like sometimes, even with people, people will think that when we say, maybe it's a good idea to go see a therapist or to get a psychiatrist, people are like, oh, I can't believe you think I need that, and it's that's not a bad thing to say. A lot of people need that, and it works for so many people.
If you need to see a counselor, or if you need to see a psychologist or psychiatrist, then go and do it, because you know what? There is
need that.
absolutely nothing
Nothing.
wrong. Actually, you're more sane and you're more
Oh, yes.
intelligent if you go and seek help
Like, honestly,
versus not seeing any help.
that's correct.
And saying, "Oh, gee,
I can do this on my own self-will."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's like an alcoholic saying, "I can stop anytime."
Yeah, exactly.
If you can stop anytime, then why didn't you stop?
It's really brave to admit that you have a problem.
Right.
It's really brave to
Like
admit
me, I'm
that.
perfectly normal.
Not to completely beat around the bush, like, I don't have a problem, I just need somebody, like, I just, whatever, it's brave.
I'll give you an example. I actually did a reading today for a young man. His mother actually was kind of doing the law of attraction thing. Of course, I don't bring up any names, but I will tell you that the kid was sort of arrogant and not caring and saying, "I'm just doing this because I'm not even doing it." And I said, "Well, you're going to listen to me. I'm going to make sure you listen to me." He goes, "Well, I don't think that's going to happen." So I got his mother on the phone. I said, "I want him in person in front of me. It's not going to be over FaceTime. I want him in front of me." And she said, "You got it." And I said, for each time that he does not listen to me, he'll be doing 10 push-ups.
Yeah, but
And again, and I can get on that level that they're on. And I did that. And I did that with a few people that age already. And when they realize that they're benefiting from it, the reason that they rebel in the beginning is usually due to enabling at a younger age.
yeah.
If you let your kids say, "No, I'm not doing that," to get away with it for a certain amount of time, then they'll just say it all the time. And that's kind of where it's at right now. Any last words that you want to do?
No?
I hope everybody enjoyed this session, and keep your boundaries, set your boundaries, and don't let people take advantage of those boundaries. And that's all I have to say. Last word, nothing, yes, maybe, no, goodbye.
Therapy's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. It's actually quite good.
Yeah.
And you can do therapy
Yeah.
also together by communicating. So I'm not always going to get along with Kaylee. Kaylee's not always going to get along with me. I'm not going to get along with the other person that's working behind the counter, and they're not going to always get along with me. But if you talk and you speak and you tell them, "Hey, this is how I feel," or, "Hey, I'm sorry for being a weenie that day," or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
You're building a relationship with you and
This
that
is
other
like a
person.
family, and
Yeah.
if you can't speak to them, then that's just the wrong vibe to have. You should be able to be open no matter what. With that, I hope you guys have a blessed day. We'll talk to you
Ciao.
later. Bye.